Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Minecraft Survival Series. Not necessarily survival today. Today we're actually in creative mode. Check this out. What I did is I loaded up a copy of a save of this world in order to create the next project. So I wanted to build a witch farm for the next project, and to be honest, I'd never done that before. So I wanted to A, get the experience, and that way I'm not fumbling around on a video, and B, I wanted to test and see if it would work. And I didn't really, I do this a lot. I do this with a lot of projects like this mob farm. I'll actually explain that and show a lot more on that in a minute. But I do this a lot. I create a project in creative just to test and see if it will work. So I went through it and followed a tutorial by Exumavoid, and I made the first witch farm that I'd ever made. I know it's a little bit cheaty, but I wanted to test and see if it would work. It definitely did not work. I had to put in some cactuses to try and kill off some spiders. That's something I read online when I was doing my first initial exploration and trying to see if, what exactly was wrong. I guess if I go all the way up here, I will get the spawning away from the ground, and we should get a few more spawns up in the machine. So, I don't know if you guys can see there, it's definitely spawning other mobs, and that's not what's supposed to happen. There's supposed to be a very specific bounding box right here where only witches can spawn. And I couldn't figure it out, but I had a sneaking suspicion. So I loaded up a server and tested a mod that I'd tested before. So let me load up that world, and I will show you guys how that works. So this is actually running on a server. It's actually an old thing that I had set up a few weeks ago when I was testing the mob farm up here. Actually, I tested out a couple of different variations of the mob farm. You notice that it's at a different height. It's actually before I even did the time lapse, I think, because there's no other iron farms. So this is actually kind of interesting to load up a previous version of this world. So that over there is the mob farm that I was kind of testing out, and check it out down here. You can actually see there's no railway to the end. I still hadn't gone to the end at this point. I hadn't built that. I hadn't rebuilt the animal farms and all that stuff. So, yeah, this is something that I had set up a few weeks ago in order to test the mob farms. The reason this is called the carpet mod is because if you use different pieces of carpet, you can place down a block, and it should crash my game, I guess. What's going on? Yeah, it's crashed. And the reason why this is called the carpet mod is because you use different pieces of carpet and you put that down, and it'll actually tell you what mobs can spawn there, whether it's the monsters, whether it's the passive mobs, or even the ambient bats, and the water mobs, the squids. So there are certain certain numbers that can spawn in any certain world. So with this mod, you can see how many of those monsters can spawn in any certain space. Now, the reason why I was using this for the mob farm earlier was a different reason. It has this ability to warp time. Now, if you do tick warp, let's do 1,000, it'll actually warp through time. You can see the sun and the moon just racing across, and it'll also it'll spawn all the mobs that it'll spawn. All of that goes at super speed and everything else. So it actually goes at 153 ticks per second, which is pretty good. Normally it's at like 20 ticks per second, so it's going at well over the normal speed. We can even go up to 10,000. And the reason why I was testing this is because I didn't want to waste a bunch of time. I didn't want to waste hours trying to test this out, because what I was doing is I was standing down here, and I think that actually put some of the ground within spawning distance, because we're at 172, subtract 128 from that. So that's allowing spawns down as low as 44, and if this is at 60, so then there's obviously a good radius here. Maybe with the water that might not be too bad, but wow, 235. So that was the reason why I was doing that. You can actually come out here and warp time. Let's do time set night. It's actually pretty fun to play around in creative once in a while. So then we'll do another time warp, and we can see all the mobs down here just kind of going crazy and stuff. So yeah, this has several functions. I think you can even change the spawn rates. Wow, mob cap. What are we gonna do? Like 1,000? Okay, yeah, hostile mobs changed to 1,000. So let's change to times at night again, and we're probably gonna see a shitload of mobs out here. Slash game rule. What does it do? Daylight cycle? Yeah, false. Okay, so we'll keep it to nighttime out here. And yeah, you're just going to see a crazy amount of mob spawning. Normally you only see 70. We cranked it up to 1,000. So this is a very useful mod for several different reasons. This is kind of crazy, actually. There's so many mobs. This would be so scary in survival. Imagine playing a survival world where this was a thing, where it was just like insane at nighttime. Like absolutely no going out at nighttime. But you come over here and it's nice and well lit. So that's where you use something like that, so that even if there is a low chance of spawning down there or anywhere else, it is most likely going to spawn something there. So otherwise we can also do the take warp again, and then you'll just see them. You should see them flowing out like crazy. So I guess I'm probably too close to it there. There we go. What was the time? Time set 9, that put it to 13,000. Let's do 15,000. Okay, that's nice and dark. So if I come up here, nice and higher, that way nothing else spawns. So anyways, long story short, that's the way I was using this thing for. So what I did is I came over here to what is supposed to be a witch's hut, and you can see within the witch's hut we are definitely being allowed much more than the witch. So normally it should only be the witch that's allowed to spawn. We're seeing all these other ones here in green. So long story short, we've got a problem, and that is kind of what my suspicion was when I loaded up this mod, is to test out whether or not we are exactly whether or not that is exactly our problem. So what's the next step? Now I need to find another witch's hut. That is no longer a valid witch's hut, and I need to find a new one. So then what do we do? So the first thing I did was I came out to my map to try and see if there was any, visible witches' huts. I didn't find anything. I decided I would just kind of go flying around randomly, and that ended up taking a long time. So what I did was I found a way to increase the flight speed. I was just Googling around and I found a tutorial on how to increase the flight speed. So I definitely made it so that I could cover a lot of ground really quickly. In fact, to the point where I ended up getting lost, and I found a couple of witches' hut. One was at like 2,000 blocks away. One was like, one wasn't too far away. It was like straight out that way. And so what I ended up doing is I decided to map my way there, and what it is actually straight out this way. It's actually all the way around the corner, and would be not this block but the one above it. So it would have been right about there. So it's actually pretty far away, considering our ice thing is there. So I don't know, it's super far away, so I didn't know if I really wanted to be transporting and teleporting all that far. So what I did was I actually ended up getting online. I found a website that would help me out with that. Okay, so it's this website called Mine Atlas. And obviously I just found it on Google. It's nothing, it's not a secret or anything like that. So this pink house here is where we spawn. This is apparently where I was at. I don't know, just when I loaded it up. Maybe that's where like my house is or something like that. There's this one down here. There's this one over here. There's a lot of useful stuff on here actually that shows where some jungle temples might be. That would actually be something cool to go find. Some ocean monuments, slime chunks. I guess I could make a slime farm. That would actually be kind of interesting. Desert temples. See, this is what confused me, is I knew that there's a desert temple over here next to me. I'm not supposed to know there's another desert temple up north of me. I've actually seen it while, you know, doing these type of fly around things, not while on an actual episode. So what I did, this one is obviously the closest one to spawn, so I found the coordinates are something like 200 by negative 350. So what I did is I went to those coordinates, 200 by negative 350. Let's go. So it turns out those coordinates are not too far away, especially with that speed boost. And it turns out, and I don't know if this is a major coincidence or what, but this desert temple that I'm not supposed to know about, that I've actually never been to on an episode, that's actually never been explored, this is actually at 200 by negative 350 or something like that, you know what I mean? So I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? So now I gotta go back to that carpet mod and figure out what the hell's going on here. So it takes a little bit longer to fly over there in this version, but it's really not too far away. I'm not sure what kind of transportation I will make, but I might just make a minecart track or something like that. I'll probably just end up flying over here. It's really not very far of a flight, especially with the new rocket propulsion. So what I did is I came over here to about 200 by 350, and I started checking stuff out, and I was like, well, no, that's not working. It still says in the chat that it's allowing all type of other spawns. So I'm like, well, this isn't that's not what I had expected. So I guess I wasn't sure who to believe. I wasn't sure what to think. So what I ended up doing is I ended up loading up a new world with the old spawn name, so it would have the new spawn generation without the old spawn generation. I think this temple is part of the old spawn generation. So this temple was generated in the old world, and our level is reading where witch huts are supposed to be in the new world. That's why the one that we have previously, the witch hut over there, that's why that's not working, is because it's not recognized as a witch hut in the new world. So here, let's go spawn up a new world. Okay, so create a creative world. Call it Witch Test 2, because that's what I did before. We'll do the seed is the same as before. If you watch the very first episode number 1, that is what we did. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new world, but it's going to be on the new spawn generation, or the new terrain generation. So after 1.7, they changed the terrain generation. That's when they added a bunch of new biomes and stuff. So that was after our world was created. So this is going to be a different type of spawn, but if we go to those coordinates, 200 by negative 350 is going to be in this direction. Okay, so there we see our witch's hut. And what are the coordinates on this? Right about 200 by negative 350. But not quite. It's actually 199 by negative 350. Okay, so what I did is I wrote down my coordinates. So if you look at the bottom here, we're at 200 by 340, negative 346, and then 193, and then negative 352, and 200. So what I did is I wrote down these exact coordinates and then took it back. See, you got a witch spawn in here. Only witches should spawn in a witch's hut. So what I did is I now took that information back over to the carpet mod so I can test exactly where the witch's hut is supposed to be. So we came down here, and isn't that a coincidence? We've got a witch spawned right there. Now, that's not a guaranteed sign, but that is a coincidence. So I came over here, and if you look right there, it says only witch will spawn right there. I'm like, what the hell? What is going on? It is overwritten the new terrain generation into the old world. There should be a witch's hut right here, but there's not. It's actually, I don't know if it's a complete and utter coincidence that there's actually a desert temple. See, that's where the edge of it is. This one allows creepers and everything. That one does not. So that's where the edge of it is. These all, if I keep placing it, it's keep telling me the same thing in the chat. This is where our witch's hut is supposed to be. So that's allowing creepers and skeletons. So this is actually the edge of where our witch's hut can be. So we can actually build a witch's hut in this spot right here, and it should work. That should work. That's going to be crazy. We're going to build a witch's hut in a desert temple. It should work. Is that one? No, that one's, so that's the corner there. That's, oh, that still says witch there. Oh, okay. We got up too high on that row. So that's actually the edge there. Okay. So this is obviously just a test world. We're actually going to have to come back here and build this in survival. But yeah. So that is our border of where witches can spawn. That looks more like a rectangle than I thought it was going to be. So, yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. I guess I found where I'm going to build my witch's hut. In a desert temple. Luckily, it's actually not too far away from home. Just across the jungle. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of behind-the-scenes action on what it took to make the next video, because, man, this was confusing. I wasted a whole day trying to figure this out, but yeah, I think it was probably well worth it because we're not too far away from home and we get to build our witch's farm. So that should be pretty easy to build some sort of transportation back and forth. And actually we'll just be able to fly, because with the elytras you can actually fly a lot faster than you can in creative, which is hilarious. But okay, so now we'll go back to that witch test world now that we know exactly where the witch's hut is supposed to be, and we know that it's gonna be in the world, in our survival world. We'll come over here and let me see if I can't do it like that, and we'll make the platform, and we'll figure out exactly where these coordinates are. And then we'll take that information over to our survival world, and then we can build our witch's hut there. Okay, so now that we have our information, we know exactly where our witches are going to spawn. And we can make that one more wider. There. So now we know exactly where things are going to be. We can take that information and plug that into our new world and figure out where to build our witch's huts. So looking at 200 by negative 346 to 192 to negative 351 to back to 200. So that's at level 69, 69er, and level 66 and level 63. So that's all the information we're going to need, so tomorrow we can build our witch's farm. So cheers, guys. Thank you very much for watching. This has definitely been a different video. Let me know if you guys enjoyed seeing a little bit of behind-the-scenes information on how I went about producing the episodes. So cheers, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.